How do we create strong communities? How do we create the critical participatory democracies that we all dream of? This was my question to come and do as a PhD project, about 10 years ago. I finished my PhD only 3 years ago, so you can see I took a long time with this question, and I took a long time with this question because I wanted to understand how it practically worked. How do you create here in Berlin strong communities? And I thought the answer is you need to create strong girls. Strong boys too, but especially strong girls. So like anyone else would do in this situation as a political scientist, I thought, I'll start a boxing club to reach these goals. Of course, a girls' boxing club. And so that's what we did. Back in the day, when I was living in a student residence, where we didn't actually have any gym or anything, we didn't really have much equipment, and we'd push the tables out of the way, and we'd be on carpet, and we'd box, and girls from the neighborhood there and around Tater-Heusplatz would come to us. And then that got a little better in that we managed to get partners in Kreuzberg and in Neukölln who said, you can use the schools, work with us in a Verein, and you can use the school spaces, which was fine, but we had 4 different places. So the way that looked is that we had a hockey bag about this big, filled with like 20 pairs of gloves and the pads and the ropes and everything you need, strapped on the back of my motorcycle, driving through the winter, and Well, any of you who thinks boxing is dangerous, well, driving a motorcycle with this much on the back is much more dangerous. But in any case, it worked. And then out of that experience of having the schools be involved and the kids be involved, then someone said, actually the Bezirksamt said, well, we'll let you use this space. And then we had a fixed place in the Markeinekeplatz, in Bergmannkiez, where we could do our programs. And it was around this time that the German parliament, in its infinite wisdom, said, we want some projects that we can put forward in the 2005 UN Year of Sport and Physical Education. And so there was a lot of really big projects. And then there was our little teeny weeny volunteer-driven girls and women's boxing project in Kreuzberg. But they actually voted for us. And so we were one of these model projects in the UN Year of Sport and Physical Education. And because we were promoting peace in the community. And so I thought, okay, what does that actually mean? In our communities, we actually have a lot of peace. What is it if we try and take it somewhere else where there's not necessarily a lot of peace? Okay, strong girls, right? Girls ready to lead. So then the point was, how do we do it somewhere else? And then I got the chance actually to try and do that pretty quickly because people had heard about how well it was working getting the girls involved in sports, not obvious when they're teenagers. It was also working getting German kids and Turkish kids and Arab kids and Canadian kids and everybody basically together in a group. That was also working. That's also something we're all trying to find new ways to do. But then I was invited to Nairobi to start, to be one of the grounding members of this Sport for Social Change network. Because people know that sport can create a lot of change in young people. Well, in old people too. Okay, who here went running this morning or did some yoga? Okay, all right, give yourself a hand. Creating some positive change in your life. In any case, we know that it works. The question is, again, how do you take this stuff to scale? Sorry with the jargon, but how do we do that in a way where more people can benefit, and especially those who aren't sort of living our sort of lifestyle? So we're in Nairobi. I'm excited about boxing. They're excited about girls. I'm like, okay, let's get this thing done. So I had the chance at the dinner to meet this rather reserved, ever extremely muscular young woman whose name was Conjestina. And I'm like, okay, hi, Conjestina, what do you do? And she's like, well, I'm the African middleweight champion in professional boxing. I should have known that with that quiet confidence she was exuding. In any case, I understood even more the next day when she was we were walking through the streets of Nairobi, and seriously, everybody we met knew her, okay? She's going into the supermarket, the cashier's giving her the hand. She's going up, the security guard guy's giving her the fist bump. All the kids are like, Kanji. I'm like, oh, so you're pretty popular here. And I just realized again what a role that sports personality could do. And also if you're a leader, if you've achieved something through sport, and you're active in your neighborhood, you can do a lot. So she took me to her gym. First, it was a little bit scary going through Nairobi. They don't call it Nai-robbery for nothing. It's one of the most dangerous places on earth, let alone most dangerous places in Africa. I'd gone from a sort of a lush hotel-like environment like here, got in a car, driving through Nairobi, realizing just like the total poverty and the total lack of opportunity, lack of infrastructure, feeling also quite alienated and like, what am I doing here and everything. Car stops, we get out, can't see any sort of sport infrastructure, no big gym, no big lighted pitch or anything. Anyway, walk in, beautiful blue building with like a peaked roof, kind of like a church or something. Anyway, it probably used to be a church, but that turned out to be the boxing gym, and I could hear the sounds, I could hear the skipping ropes, I could hear the people working out, and then I felt really comfortable. And that's what's so beautiful about these exchange programs, is that even though you don't speak the language necessarily, I didn't speak Swahili, or you don't necessarily connect with the people right away on another way, but through the sport you can connect with them. And then I met her trainer, Priest, and he was already training 6 women there who were interested in using boxing basically for themselves to like become professional athletes. And I'm like, well, what if our projects work together? Would it be possible, to have your girls work in their neighborhoods, that we could like take it viral, anyway, take it bigger, get these 6 women working, and they were like, yeah, this is exciting, this is what we'd like to do. And so anyway, that's what happened. We take these 6 girls, help them develop their coaching skills, build in some other stuff, which I'll talk about in a minute. But now we've got over 300 girls who are training in these 6 zones like 3 times a week, which is great. And I'd like you to meet some of them.
Karibu Box Girls Nairobi.
I'm Catherine. I box in Kariobangi.
I'm Jane. I come from Kariobangi.
I'm Mercy from Box Girls Nairobi. Watch out.
We love a lot about boxing.
Jab. Uppercut. Hook. 1, 2. Right.
Double jab.
Spats. Sparring.
They have a lot of fun, as I hope we can kind of see in the video, but it's also really, really serious what we're trying to do, right? And as we've seen before, it can also be fun and serious, which is obviously the best way for things to work. So let's just talk about, okay, well, why girls should be obvious, but I'll break it down. Why boxing, and what are the other pieces that are then kind of need to be attached to a program like this? So it's not just like other people who maybe throw a ball on a field and that was that. Girls. Well, the other thing I should also remember, what's true for Africa and Nairobi is also unfortunately true for Berlin-Neukölln or Berlin-Kreuzberg, or for that matter, Berlin-Dahlem, that girls don't get the same opportunities. They don't necessarily feel safe. They don't necessarily get the same sense of freedom to develop themselves as the boys do. Because what was very, very clear, though, in Nairobi is that the girls just simply weren't valued as much as the boys. And that they didn't get the same opportunities. And that even though they have free primary education in Kenya, which isn't completely free because you still have to buy books and clothes and things, which isn't obvious that how these families can afford it, that when they start to go to secondary school, that they often get excluded, right? That their families can't pay or won't pay. And instead of going to school, they end up being sort of pushed out of the house to seriously sell mangoes or food at the side of the road, so that they make even a small amount of money to bring back to the home. But there's lots of problems with selling mangoes at the side of the road, the least of which is that you are like totally vulnerable. And everybody knows, okay, you're a girl who's not going to school, you're a girl who's kind of being excluded, you're a girl whose parents care more about the maybe 23 cents you bring home then your education, then your future. And you can imagine how that story sort of develops. I don't need to talk about rape or incest or anything else about how hard it is to be a young woman in these societies. So then, why boxing? I could give 18 minutes on boxing, so I won't freak Stefan out and start talking about that right now. But okay, well, how many of you actually have done any boxing or kickboxing? Oh, is our lady from TED here? Are you noticing? TED people like to box. Okay, how about any other sort of fighting sports? Judo, karate, all of that? Oh, okay. I'm also a professor. There's going to be a questionnaire later about how that sort of correlates. Okay, in any case, those of you know, it teaches you to seize the initiative. It teaches you to also know you get things by actually fighting for them. Not necessarily violently, but that you actually have to get up and do something, and then something will happen. And also, perhaps most importantly, is that women need to know that in the worst case, not that they can hit somebody, but that they can get out of the way. And our boxing programs are built in such a way that you've kind of got 4 or almost 5 layers of protection. First, you're in a group of strong girls and women who sort of talk you out of the stupid things you might do as a teenager, because you're coming there, you're training regularly, and if you've got a bad boyfriend, or if you've got a bad job, or if you've got problems with your parents, you've got people there who help you and make you not make the bad decision. Second, you're a self-confident young woman because you've tested yourself. You're out there training, you're disciplining yourself, you're making promises to yourself, and you're keeping them, and that sort of confidence gives you a little schutzwand there, you know? People don't want to mess with you because you're clear, I know what I'm doing. I know karate, or I know boxing. Anyway, finally, you know how to get out of the way, and you're not impressed by aggression, right? A lot of women, I think a lot of men too, sometimes you're just impressed by somebody screaming at your face, and you'll just try and get out of the situation regardless, and you'll just give up. If you're used to dealing with people coming at you, you're not impressed by that, and you can also just get out of the way. The point isn't to hit the person. The point is just to avoid being hurt or the people you're there with. And worst case, if you have to, you can stun somebody and get the hell out of the situation. So that's part of why boxing. The other 16 minutes, well, good. And then finally, what is it in the community that we're trying to do? Because obviously we can create amazing boxers, we can create people who are active in their neighborhoods, who are keeping the kids off the street, the girls off the street. I mean, sometimes that's enough. Just keep them somewhere safe until the hormones die down, until the stupidness and the drugs go away, and then they're able to take care of themselves. But we actually try and be a little bit more active than that. We have scholarship programs, and here in Berlin we kind of have buddy programs where we tell people you've got a Prüfung, that means you prepare and I'm going to test you, and also that it's cool to be good at school. I don't think there's that many professors who are probably boxing coaches, but I try and explain to them, as well as having a really wicked jab, I want you to get good grades. So we have the scholarships for the girls in Nairobi so that if their parents are having trouble, there's a little bit more of a push. You know, you can't make the financial argument, we'll cover that. Second, we have a web cafe, which in addition to sort of teaching the basic computer skills that they're going to need, if they're going to have any chance at being part of all of this sexiness that we're talking about, that they can learn those skills, and more importantly, that the project earns some money. And also, we do a lot of outreach, because it's not just about, you know, girls for girls, right? We need, you know, all the men to help, needless to say, and there's a lot of men who want to help and who are helping. And so it's about making those arguments and creating those networks. And so we're doing all of that, which then means that we can, you know, be sustainable and help them get on. And what we're starting to do now, and which I'd love to talk to any of you about later, is entrepreneurship education, because you don't kind of apply for jobs if you're coming out of the poorest parts of Nairobi Eastlands, right? This we saw with Ted Kibera. That's actually in the west side of the city, but similar conditions. You don't apply for jobs, you make your own jobs. And I just don't want them selling mangoes, right? I want them doing something else which they can actually then support themselves. So let's look at one of the young women who is in our program. Her name's Faith.
My name is Faith, ready to present you a poem entitled, I Am a Tool for Change. They say I look all different. They oppose me by the way I look, what I do, and how I move. I am proud to be a boxer, associating myself in boxing. They call it BOXING, boxing, a game for men. a taboo in society. They say it will change my mentality and make me look different. They claim that I have won a tool of crime, but I come out to say, is it not like other sports? Can we have a positive change of using it to build our society? Football, soccer, volleyball, you all crown it as a game. Is this not a game? We should play it while thinking on the positive. We should not change who we are because of an item, but use the item to create the better of us and our society. I am proud to be a boxer because I know why I jab. I want to jab out HIV and AIDS. I want to jab out poverty. I want to jab out crime. I want to jab out rape out of my society and out of the world so that I can live in an environment where I am safe. I am proud to be a boxer. Thank you.
So I meet kids like that. I meet girls like that, and I'm also just kind of blown away by them about how articulate they can be, about how they understand what they need to fight. And then I think, oh my God, I helped start this. How do I make sure that we're where we need to be in order to sort of do our part of the deal? Right? We're like, we will help you make your society safe. We will help you jab out rape. We will help you jab out crime and give people more options. So let me take the last minute and a half here and just explain a little bit what the future looks like for us. So we basically have to do three things if we're going to be able to deliver for her. We need to be able to continue to make the argument for sport for social change and for fighting sports for girls and to explain how they work. Because people can be skeptical. People are like, what, boxing, girls, can't imagine it, too violent, whatever. We need to make that argument, and we need to make sure that other people who are trying to reach the same goals, trying to see more economically independent communities, trying to see more girls online, trying to see just that all of this development stuff we're investing millions in actually gets carried to completion, that we make that argument and we get those people. Second, we need to make sure that our organization has the right processes in place and documented so that when lots of people come up to me and say, we'd like to do that where we are, that we actually have a scalable model, right? So that our model is sort of set up and thought out and able to be applied in other places, which sounds like totally logical, but it's actually really hard to do, to think through what is it about us that's actually special, how can we deliver that in other places, how do we adapt that, how do we find the right partners, because obviously none of this would work without having amazing partners. And Nairobi is totally independent now, it's spun off, it just does its thing, and I'm really proud of that, but it takes a while to create those structures. Then finally, how do we create and diversify our income streams? So that not just that the organizations are independent, because I take my colleague's point, you want to be independent, you don't want to be spending all your time writing Anträge, and we actually are quite diversified. But how do we make sure that our organizations are fit? And more importantly, how can we also create opportunities for economic independence with the girls themselves? And that's again where we're looking at how we can do even more work with entrepreneurship, very small enterprises. And if we can do that, then we'll be able to deliver for Faith and other courageous girls like her who want to transform themselves and then transform their communities. Thank you.